Hey, welcome back to DIY Willy. Today we're working on Max with the Monster 212 in there. I want to do something and try to figure out some sort of exhaust. So I know this engine isn't going to end up in Max, but it's the same frame as Mighty. The only difference is the rear swing arm. So I think if I go ahead and make the exhaust here in Max, it should transfer over to Mighty no problem. So let's take a look at what we got. So we have a whole mess of bends and bits and pieces of pipe that we're going to try to come up with something with for this exhaust. Now, this part of the frame is all the same, whether it be a Mighty or it be Max. Like I said, the only thing that changes is the swing arm. So I am going to use this riser plate on Mighty and get rid of the angled riser plate on the other engine, because this one will work with the torque converter as well, and that's the whole point of having the riser plate. I like this one that is level. I don't like Mighty's plate is kicked up a little bit in the back, so the back of the engine's a little bit higher. This one I think actually works a lot better, moves the engine up forward more towards the frame, and allows for much more clearance back here. So I've already got the flange on there. I put a little piece of aluminum tape to help protect from any weld debris going inside. And yeah, we got to try to come up with a bend that'll come up here through the frame. And I still want the exhaust to be right here along this side. So I was hoping that the 224 exhaust fit, but the 224 exhaust doesn't. It hits right here on the frame. With the 224, it doesn't have the riser plate down here, so yeah, it has a little larger sweep on the radius of the pipe. So like Mighty, this one's going to have to be pretty tight right here to get where I need it. So yeah, I was hoping this would work, but it doesn't work. So we'll put that one back for the 224. And let's see what we can come up with for this engine. Now, I'm thinking about, obviously it's too long, but these fit in there perfect like that. And well, I don't know. I gotta figure it out. I gotta keep the exhaust away from the pipe, the tubing here, and still get it here. I thought about just making it run right along the outside right here, and the exhaust would be there, and that obviously would be the easiest, because that would just need something like that, and it would just, I mean, it would be super simple. And maybe that is the best thing to do. You know, that's quite a bit of bends we got to get in there. We'll try to mark it out right now, see what we can come up with, and maybe we will, just for simplicity, take it on the outside right here, and then we're gonna wrap it anyway. We might put a heat shield on it, protect the legs if it's on the outside, but maybe that's the way to go. So let me get going on these parts. I'll take these pieces and we'll try to figure out what we're gonna do to make our exhaust. All right, I'll see you when I got an idea what's going on. So this is what I've kind of come up with. This is the muffler I'm going to be using on Mighty and this engine, and I want it to go in this location. Yes, I know I have a monoshock, but it's up here, and it should clear the pipe that I have coming in. Mighty's rear wheel is also a little bit further back. I don't have the fender, and even though it does travel up, I do not think it will hit the exhaust. We will find out, but I don't think it will. Now I'm still waiting on a reducer piece to go right here. That'll bring it down from this diameter to this diameter. It's quite a bit of difference, as you can see. So that reducer is supposed to come tomorrow. Here's what I have for the header coming off the block right there. It makes a nice tight sweep back, and it still clears the bolts, so I should have no problem there. And see if I can do this with one hand without knocking everything out. And this header, this pipe, will go in like that. We'll just center it up inside the piece there on the muffler, and we'll match it up over here and tack it all together, and we should be good to go. It's pretty short. It should work really nice, and it clears the valve cover, and it should clear the shock. So yeah, I'm happy with that. We just need to get it all tacked in. I need to take the flange off again and make sure the flange is sanded, and remove all the mill scale for the weld. And yeah, it looks really good. I like this. We're gonna go with it. All right, so this is another day. Excuse me, I got a piece of candy in my mouth. Probably gonna sound funny when I talk. I probably should have waited to record this until after I finished the candy, but it's too darn good, and I don't have much time. So here we go. We're back on the exhaust. In usual DIY Willy fashion, I've done a lot of work without showing it. So yeah, and I've ridden it. It worked pretty good. So let me show you what I've got, and yeah, we'll get it all put back together, and then we'll take it for a ride again. So here's the exhaust piece I made. You can tell by the bluing that it's getting pretty warm in that radius, and I bet you if I didn't have an exhaust on it, it would be flaming, you know. But yeah, also it's still running pretty rich. See all that black? And I think I've used that gasket a couple times too many. It shows where the gasket's letting exhaust get by. I do wish the flange was a little bit thicker, however, but yeah, this is what came with the kit. Maybe later on I'll make a thicker flange, I don't know. But I welded it on the inside so that I wouldn't have a bulk of globby weld on the outside. And then I took my files and my sanders, and I rounded out the weld on the inside. Kind of hard to see now that it's all black, but yeah. Got the weld on the center all done, and this is going to be wrapped to protect it from heat, or to protect us from heat, and so we won't get burned, so you won't see the welds anyway. But I like the bluing. So we've got the gasket right here, and you can tell the gasket's blown out already. It's pretty tired, but I'll use it again for now, and we'll replace it when we put it on Mighty. The exhaust fits in there really nice. We got the bolts, or we got the nuts here that go on. I always use a lock washer, and that's the way it bolts on. Now it looks pretty good. I'll just go ahead and tighten it up. You got lots of room in the bend for the nut. Of course, you can't use a socket, but you can use a wrench to tighten it down. One-handed. I try to tighten them down a little bit at a time on each one. That way you're not warping out that flange. All right. Now, you saw it earlier in the video, I have that other exhaust to go on here. However, in this frame, it doesn't work too well, the bigger exhaust. On Mighty's frame, the swing arm's longer, and the wheel's in a different position, and this bar right here is in a different position. It actually kind of bends outward instead of inward, so there'll be more room for it on Mighty's frame. We're also going to use an RLV, I think it's a 91 style muffler for right now, and that just tightens up right there with a 10mm, and we'll be ready to go. Hold on. Okay, so we've got it all back together now, and you can see I've got my torque converter on there with my Juggernaut off of Mighty, borrowing it from there right now just to test the motor. Muffler's on, tightened up. So in one of my last previous videos, I had some comments about the not having an air filter on the carburetor. So I went ahead, I got the air filter off of the NIBBI carburetor. I took my velocity stack I got from Paul's Karts off, and I installed the air filter. So don't worry, people, now we will have some filtration in the air, and we won't be getting dirt inside from the air, from the carburetor anyway. So yeah, it's about time to take it for a ride. Now this has the 60 tooth sprocket in the back. I believe it's a 12 tooth on the front, and it's a 35 chain. I would rather have a bigger chain for this amount of power, but for testing purposes only, I think it'll work out all right. We just got to be careful. That 60 tooth is going to want to ride a wheelie, and I'm not much of a wheelie guy. It may be my name, but I don't like to ride wheelies. So I'll eventually put the 54 tooth sprocket back on this one to ride it if I keep the engine in much longer. But we will be putting that engine in Mighty, and Mighty has a 48 tooth sprocket. I think it'll work a lot better. It also has, it's either 41 or 420. Well, they're pretty much the same. Anyway, it's a larger chain. It's not the 35 chain. The engine is just a little bit crooked, and you can tell that it's kind of rubbing right there. But that's just going to self-clearance on its own. It'll probably wear the chain odd in some places, but it's all right. We'll be okay. Yeah, what do you say we get this thing started up, warm up a little bit, make sure there's gas in it, and then take it for a ride and show how it rides and how responsive it is. I don't much care for the throttle. It's capable of a lot of RPM, but I'm not going to get it there on the city streets like this. And if I could find a place to ride it where it's open, maybe like in the desert where the sand and desert season starts up pretty soon, might be a good place to try this engine, where if you crash, it's not going to hurt quite as bad as asphalt or concrete. So I probably won't get it to its full potential out here on the street. But yeah, we're going to try it. We'll get a ride. We'll get a little bit of riding up here on the street right here real quick, just to wrap up this video and show how well the exhaust works. And now that the exhaust is in, I can start to tune that carburetor and get some of that richness out of it. I got a pretty good idea where I want to go, but I haven't done it yet. I was waiting for the exhaust. I don't know if the difference between the mufflers, between the RLV muffler and the other muffler that I had earlier in this video, if the tuning would be different, but I'm going to tune it the way it is now, and then if we have to jet it up a little bit with the other muffler or down, we will. No big deal. So I say we get this thing out on the street and let's go for a ride.